Hello, Will. How you doing today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
How you feeling? You seemed ill last week. You all better now?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better today actually. Yeah, there seems to be some sort of cold going around. My girlfriend was ill earlier that week, so yeah, something going around, but better now.
I'm hoping I avoid it this year. Usually every year without fail, I have a cold in between October and December. I end up being ill, and it usually wipes me out for the best part of a week. But I'm hoping I get over it I don't have it this year, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Well, it
Autumn,
wasn't
still
pleasant,
early.
but
Autumn, winter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it wasn't pleasant, but yeah, not ideal.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on. I usually start off by asking SEOs how they got into SEO. So with that said, how did you become an SEO?
Yeah. So I first time I heard about SEO was way back in university, and we had like one lecture out of 4 years on SEO and what SEO was, and I found it quite interesting and the kind of way the an SEO will kind of look after the content on thousands of pages. I thought that was quite a kind of interesting problem that they kind of have to solve. And then when I finished uni, I moved down to London and was kind of just scouring, trying to find a job essentially, and started working for a really kind of small wedding planner website that kind of gives you the tools to plan your own wedding. And I started there as a sales intern. And while I was there, I expressed my interest in SEO and trying to learn it. And at the time, it was just the CEO doing it himself. So he was like, "Yeah, sure, just go ahead, give it a go, see what you can find, trial and error, all that kind of stuff." So that's
Yeah.
what I did. I did a lot of kind of trial and error and sort of reading all these different articles and updating blogs or whatever and updating titles, like lots of like content based stuff. But I was really kind of enjoying it at the time. And then I kind of ended my job with them after about 18 months and started working at Built Visible as a SEO executive there, and really kind of enjoyed the more kind of technical side of it and strategic aspect of it. And that's where I kind of, yeah, I guess my kind of knowledge expanded quite rapidly working there, and worked my way up to kind of senior consultant level over a kind of four-year period with them. And then just recently have gone kind of in the freelance direction. So that's the kind of new path that, and a kind of new type of SEO that I've got to kind of get to grips with as well. So yeah, really exciting at the moment, but kind of a fun journey over the last 5 years, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned technical SEO. What's your views on working with developers, especially when it comes to implementing recommendations?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Tend to really enjoy it. I think it's one of those kind of it can kind of go either way, I suppose. In some cases, you have to do a kind of a lot of business cases, explanations around like why this is important, the impact of it. But naturally, they're kind of I think. And this is not just kind of developers, but people are skeptical of the kind of impact of the recommendations you're giving them. But I think you tend to get a kind of good response as long as you kind of develop on, as long as you have a good relationship with them, And once you start to show the impact of one thing, it can often lead to quicker implementation of like the next 5 things, I suppose. So yeah, it's kind of it can be a really kind of enjoyable relationship, I think, but it just needs a bit of trust, which you have to work on, I suppose.
Yeah, it also takes time, and usually when clients receive recommendations, they tend to spend a lot of time, or should I say, a lot of time goes by before they go ahead and start to implement recommendations. What do you think can help clients implement quicker, regardless of which department requires the implementation?
Yeah, I think it's a funny one because I think people assume a lot of SEO is just content based. So
Yeah.
you can often get that it kind of, when you make recommendations, you can often find that the content based recommendations are implemented far faster than the kind of technical internal linking recommendations that you might make. But I think it's really just making sure you're kind of building a business case around each recommendation, and the level of business case you need to create is definitely dependent on the kind of how much resources required. So if you're needing more resource, then it requires a bigger level of kind of explanation, forecasting, these types of kind of an expansion of those kinds of areas to get the client to understand what the impact could potentially be. I think it's also understanding the wider business goals of the company as well. So in some cases, even though you as an SEO care about traffic, which is standard for an SEO, that might not be necessarily up there in terms of the business goals that the client has. So it's always good to try and work out how you can kind of, while you're building these business cases, is how you can relate them to the wider business goals, whether that is kind of increasing conversion rate or increasing user, increasing kind of the how are you, the what am I using? How or improving on the way a user is interacting with your site. So if you're, to take an example, if you're providing like page experience recommendations, then that is tied towards SEO, and that's why you're making the kind of recommendation. But the impact of implementing those page experience updates can also impact on things like I said, user interaction, conversion rates, like all these extra elements that aren't always spoke about when you're making those kind of recommendations.
Yeah, and like I always like to say, SEO, it's a strange, beautifully weird channel in that it's more than just a marketing department. Well, I don't want to say just a marketing department, but it's a department that you can use it for web development, right? And I always say, as long as you have a website, you need SEO. It's the one channel where you need SEO from the very beginning, where you need the channel from the very beginning, whether you're developing the website or marketing the website. And some businesses, they might look at SEO and say, well, it's a free channel, right? Organic is free. So why do we need SEO? What's your response to clients who say, we don't need SEO because SEO is free?
Uh, I think the response would be you do need SEO because SEO is free. Because because essentially, if you're able to build your kind of visibility on a channel that essentially, you have to kind of you have to put in the kind of resource to get yourself to perform well. But once you start performing well there, then that could be construed as a kind of free channel for to kind of generate traffic. I suppose like SEO can kind of covers across a number of different elements of a business as well. So it's kind of like, you have to incorporate SEO in a number of different business areas like user experience, developers, digital marketers, Google Ads, like these kinds of things all require some level of kind of optimization that you can kind of include SEOs in. But yeah, it's an important channel to consider for sure.
So with SEOs working with different departments, with a lot of companies, SEO is still new in the business. We're not the newest channel, so social media is newer than SEO. But SEO is still considered the new channel because it's so foreign to people. What can businesses do to include SEO, better integrate SEO in their overall digital marketing?
I think you can get the kind of basics. If you're a client, if you're a company that doesn't have the funds to kind of include an SEO, consultant or whatever into your business, then I think you can get the basics, like the kind of content based SEO, the kind of content SEO sorted. So looking at your kind of keywords and optimizing your pages for the particular keywords that you want to rank for. And then from that point, you should start to see, by getting the kind of content SEO sort of started and right, you should start to see some changes to your kind of organic rankings. Maybe not like, maybe nothing kind of substantial or kind of world changing, but something that can kind of give you belief that is the kind of correct way to go, and then from there just like incrementally up, increasing the level of resource that you put into the area. We'll start to see sort of slow incremental gains over a kind of longer period of time.
Yeah, and to start with, SEO is very difficult for people to buy into SEO because the ROI in the beginning might not be very visible, but over the years it becomes exponentially the better channel to use. I think most businesses, if they look at their analytics, they'll see that SEO is consistently the top 3 traffic driving channels, and that's across the board. That's just my personal view. I don't have everyone's individual data analysis tool, but from my experience, it's definitely the case. But unfortunately, clients, they may not necessarily spread the awareness of SEO. So for example, I think as a community, we're very familiar working with copywriters, right? SEO and copywriters are very close. SEO and developers, I think we still have some work to do to have both departments working closer together, and in my opinion, that's my suspicion on why a lot of implementation takes a long time to happen, because SEO recommendations get pushbacks. And imagine being a developer, right? And you have your projects you're working on, and you might even know your next projects that you're working on. and SEO is brought in, a channel that you don't particularly know much about or even care about, frankly, and you're asked to work on it. It can be quite frustrating, right? And I imagine developers, and I've seen developers actually, they just work on SEO just to have it done. So they treat it as a tick box. And unfortunately, that spreads throughout the company where people, non-SEOs, view SEO as a channel that's just a tick box. But we know SEO is not like that, right? So I think the awareness of SEO is definitely something that needs to be worked on company-wide. The evangelism of SEO is something that is very underrated, in my opinion. In your experience, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I suppose, like, just like logistically, it makes, you know, you're in separate departments as well. So the access to a copywriter when you're working in, because SEO is always kind of put in the marketing department, I suppose. So the access to a copywriter and content managers and things like that, you know, they're right across the kind of desk from you. Whereas like a developer, you know, they don't have that. You don't have that same access to them. So it means that like it means that your time is kind of is short when you do have that access to developer, because it's more of a working it's more of a kind of can I say like working relationship, that here's your time allocated for SEO with a developer. Whereas if there was a more of a kind of combination or a combined department with developers, SEOs, marketers all in one room, you might actually find that those departments work far more efficiently with their developers as well, just purely because they're kind of logistically easier to access.
With my experience working with developers, I find that when they first start working with SEOs, they're very reluctant to work with SEO. But later on, especially as projects continue and they start to see results and they get an understanding of how what they're doing helps SEO, how they contribute to SEO results, they get a lot more, I don't want to use the word friendly, but that's the only word that I have in mind right now. They become a lot more friendly with SEO. And I think SEOs working with several departments is a matter of ensuring that they're on board with SEO, not just from a buy-in SEO point of view, but ensuring that they actually want to get results or want to help SEO attain results. Like I always say, SEO, you need more than SEOs to make SEO a success, right? We SEOs can do as much as we can, but we're just SEOs, right? To have technical stuff implemented, we need the dev department. To have content implemented, we need copywriters. Nowadays, we need PR for link building or link earning, if you want to be political. But we can't actually implement things ourselves, right? And there are some people who consider SEO to be a channel where we aim to implement things ourselves. So SEO should be copywriters. SEO should also be developers. And then there are people who say, no, SEO should work with copywriters, developers. What's your view on how SEO should work with non-SEOs?
Yeah. Well, something that I've been kind of getting more and more kind of interested and involved in, particularly during my time at Build Visible, was something called causal impact testing, which historically has been really, like working in SEO is really hard to showcase the impact of these individual kind of implementations that we make, because, you know, if you're an e-commerce platform, for example, and you remove a no index tag somewhere, I don't know, on 500,000 of your kind of e-commerce pages, how can you really show what that impact is, or how when there's uplift in SEO, because you could say that could be down to a number of things, or it could be down to seasonality, or all these kind of external elements that might be impacting the traffic that you're generating. So so when you're working with a developer or something and you make these kind of large implementations, really showing the impact of those implementations has always got this ambiguity to it. That it's not 100%, we can't be 100% sure that this is the case, but we think that is the case. Whereas implementing a kind of testing program like causal impact, that causal impact testing essentially creates a control set against your kind of test group, which then showcases what would have happened if you hadn't done that implementation. And so the ambiguity of what the impact of any kind of changes that you're making is far, far reduced, because you can say, had we not done this, by making this implementation, we're increasing our traffic by sort of 100, 200 users per day. And the incremental impact of that is massive, because that's 1,000 per week or whatever, or 2,000 per week. So I think being able to show the data behind what you're doing is massively impactful when you're working with other teams in other departments outside of SEO, because then they kind of get a real kind of dopamine hit on when you see that kind of real impact.
Yeah, we like that. Definitely. Non-SEOs still view SEO as keywords, links, and rankings, right? And there is this thinking that keywords is all there is to SEO, right? So as long as you have keywords, you're good. As long as you target keywords, you're fine. But pages is, I would say, now becoming more and more important in terms of SEOs viewing and informing non-SEOs of the value of pages over the value of keywords. What's your take on the importance of pages, bearing in mind that Google doesn't rank keywords, they rank pages?
Yeah. I think it can be really easy to focus your time on one keyword, but ultimately there are 100 different synonyms that are tied to that one keyword, that it wouldn't be worth us kind of creating multiple pages for that query or keyword. So the creation of pages is it gives you a far better kind of insight into the impact of the SEO work that you're doing, because it gives you that wider view of performance, and you might see a positive impact in areas that you wouldn't have expected to see that positive impact as well. So if you're incorporating running, if you're targeting running shoes, you might also see that you also rank for running trainers, for example, and that might not be something that you were originally targeting, but that's been a positive, that's kind of an indirect positive impact of the kind of SEO work that you're doing. So I think it just allows you to give yourself a wider view by focusing on pages and not keywords.
Definitely agree, 100%. In the industry, there is this rhetoric that SEO takes about 6 months, 3 to 6 months, I think is what people tend to say, in order for clients to get results. there are some clients that stick with that and hold SEOs to account religiously. What would you say to clients who think SEO only takes 3 to 6 months in order to show results after they haven't seen results within that time frame?
I think it's that classic it depends kind of phrase that SEOs use. SEO is always one of these incremental projects that you have to work on consistently. So saying 3 to 6 months also implies that you kind of just do, you work a week. You can work a week and then leave it for 3 to 6 months and wait for those rankings to start coming in, but it's not like that. I think it's kind of an incremental update, check it kind of piece of work, and I think it's also dependent on exactly. And it's also dependent on the size of website you are as well. So, and the level of, not just in terms of how many pages are on the site, but in terms of how well known are you in the world? Because the more well known you are, the more often your site is crawled, and the more often the index is updated with the kind of new content that you've got, and the more often your rankings are going to change. So that can also impact the kind of speed in which these things change as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's switch gears to search engines. TikTok are rapidly becoming a search engine in their own right. And there are reports now saying that Gen Z and Gen Alpha spend more time on TikTok and use TikTok as their the base for their search over Google. Do you think TikTok can ever overtake Google's dominance?
I think it can be more prevalent in certain industries and certain areas. So, but I don't know if it'll ever overtake Google and their kind of dominance in the world. I mean, somebody's got to overtake them at some point. They can't last forever. But but I think this is something I learned quite recently, and then I tried it myself and actually found it to be far more insightful than what I would look up on Google. So my example, the example I was kind of looking at was holiday destination. I was going to Tinos in Greece, at one of the Greek islands, and before I went, I would search. I would search on Google and I would search on TikTok, and I found like Google search was, I feel like it's so it's kind of diluted in quality content now, because in a way the kind of the SEO aspect of that kind of search term has kind of ruined the quality of the results, because now you're getting very similar suggestions that that don't really tie into the type of person you are. So, just go to the museums, go and see go to the churches, whatever. But what I found with TikTok is far more genuine recommendations, and far more kind of insightful and up to date as well, because people are going there all the time. It's an individual just kind of creating their content, so it's not a kind of larger corporation that kind of creates the content, and then that's kind of out of date by 3 years or whatever. It's content creators, thousands of content creators putting together their own kind of insights. Mm-hmm. So in that case, I actually found that I could actually see in that case TikTok being a far more useful search engine to use when you're looking for that kind of thing. I mean, there's other examples where it just doesn't work, which I can't really think of at the moment. But well, e-commerce, for example, like at the moment you can't use TikTok. TikTok doesn't allow you to kind of swipe or click on or add a kind of link onto your video, as far as I'm aware. So
I think they have some sort of like live feature for e-commerce sites where you can present live and have things on screen where people can actually click on and buy it. I think I've seen something like that before. My feed doesn't really come up with stuff like that, but I remember seeing one or two things like that. But I didn't delve into it, so I can't be for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think in the kind of e-commerce space I can't see how they would be able to kind of implement a kind of video search that would allow you to kind of view thousands of items or thousands of products, allow you to kind of refine what you're looking for. It seems kind of difficult to be able to do that on a platform like TikTok, but maybe that will change. I'll be proven wrong.
Yeah, in the next couple of years, the industry is going to change, I think, quite drastically. I think the way people consume content is changing, and I think the way people create content is changing. So, for example, video is now the default content type, right? Back in the day, it used to be just text or copy articles, let's say. Now people consume videos at a rapid pace, and they probably prefer to consume videos rather than articles, right? And you have users now who are also creating videos. So it's not just a case of specific, if you like, marketers creating videos. Just an average person can create a video. They don't have to be a marketer. And I think if that is the case, if consumer behavior is changing and content creation is changing, or the people who create content is changing, i.e. being everyone, the way people search might also be changing. In that, like you mentioned, looking at searching something on Google or any of the old school search engines will give you a set of results, and you can see the optimization on the pages, right? You can tell, okay, yeah, all of these guys, yeah, they have SEOs working for them, right? It's quite obvious. Whereas something like TikTok and perhaps other platforms, it's more open to non-marketers, so they can create for consumers. And it being a world where we have direct to consumers, I think it's I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm starting to see certain patterns in that content is expanding from marketers to just the general public, and I think that's going to affect the way people search. I think people's understanding of search is going to increase drastically over the next few years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even on Google, you get far more kind of video content than you would have sort of three years ago. And it makes sense as well, like because ultimately, there is a worry that everything's been over marketerized, that is kind of built for search engines and not for users. And I think that's why TikTok is so good. A lot of people prefer TikTok, is because it's harder to kind of it's harder to do that, I think, or there's less kind of insight or understanding of how to kind of do that, I suppose. But I mean, I've not done TikTok SEO yet, so maybe there is like a clear-cut understanding of what to do. But
Yeah, that might be a thing. We might find that SEOs are becoming more focused on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that could happen soon. But I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be an algorithm. It's it will only take one algorithm, right, from Google, presumably, to quote unquote put things right.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
With all the algorithms that Google releases, there are some brands that see it as an attack on their company, right? And with every algorithm update, there are countless articles that say SEO is dead, sort of thing, right? What do you say to brands, to a client who says Google is after my business and it's attacking my business when they release an algorithm? What's your take on Google releasing algorithms?
I think almost always these updates are related, unless they're kind of, like the page experience update, they're almost always tied towards better content and better better matching the intent of the user. So if you're impacted by it, you're either not providing quality content or you're not meeting the intent that Google algorithms are assigning to a particular keyword. Or it's related to kind of EAT metrics, which are kind of expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And there are steps that you can take that would allow you to kind of rectify any of those things. So it's not a case of Google sort of necessarily attacking your site in any way. It's more that they're giving more. They're not giving you the. They're looking at your site and thinking it doesn't meet these kind of three functions that we're kind of looking for.
Where do you think SEO is headed? Let's say, or not necessarily SEO. Let's say search overall. The next, let's say, 3 to 5 years.
I think it's kind of there's a growing kind of data-led approach to SEO. I think before it's been a kind of there's been kind of less data required to back up your claim of impact, and and now you need to have kind of have the data backing up what you're claiming. I think causal impact testing is a big one. I think that I can see there's kind of Search Pilot and there's other kind of agencies out there, Built Visible, that are kind of increasing their use of causal impact testing. And I think over time that or something similar to that will become a kind of norm within the SEO community, where people will, agencies will use this kind of this testing infrastructure for everything that they implement, because it gives you so much more. It gives you so much more cannon fodder when you go back to the kind of the clients that you're working with, or the kind of senior management team that you're working with, to showcase the impact of the implementations you make. And it makes you more accountable for the work you do as well. So if you're a bad SEO, or maybe not a bad SEO, but if you're, it's also, there's always these kind of best practices that people just adhere to and follow. But the impact of those best practices change depending on what industry you're working on or what keywords you're targeting. So making a change on one site might not have the same impact if you implemented the same thing on another site. So having that kind of testing infrastructure would allow you to build up such a bigger knowledge base for the industries that you're working in. So I think testing is going to be huge over the next few years.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, definitely. I can also see, I envision a world where non-SEOs know more about SEO than they currently do. Similar to how search over time has changed, right? So people now know if they want certain things, they're more aware of the terms, right, to use to search for certain things. And in a sense, they not directly, but indirectly understand search intent. And because of that, their awareness of what to search to find exactly what they're looking for, I think has shortened. It's quicker, right? I think SEO is going to be more widespread across non-SEOs, and search overall will be widespread across non-SEOs. Currently, we have senior people in businesses who have an idea of what SEO is, but from an operational point of view, they may not have a clue at all, right? So they invest in SEO and they expect a return on investment instantly, right? What would you say to senior management at businesses that have an idea of what SEO is and it's not yet meeting what they think? So it's not yet meeting their expectations.
I think.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
What would you say? What do you think senior management in businesses should know about SEO?
The kind of. I think the main thing, I guess, is the data takes time. Once you've made that implementation, it's not like Google Ads where you can get like immediate results, and if with Google Ads, if you for example, invest £1,000 a day, that you make £3,000 back off that. SEO is far more nuanced than that. Like you can't, because also it ties into a lot of other things when it comes down to revenue that we can't control, like CRO, user experience, like all these other elements that then make it difficult for to kind of get answers. So I think those two things that I would say are big.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So in the next couple of oh, sorry, I already asked you that. I was going to ask where you see SEO headed, but you answered that already. What do you think of, let's go with algorithm updates, right? What do you think of the latest algorithm? Or should I say, what latest algorithm really surprised you and say, oh, that's a good one? Google really did their thing with that one.
God.
There's been so many, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've worked with many clients that have seen huge changes to their rankings after update. I found that the page experience update was a recent one that they put. Was it the page experience? I can't remember.
So what would you say? What is your favorite update then? Algorithm update.
I mean, I find most interesting is the page experience update. I don't think I've seen a huge kind of change on in rankings off the back of it. There's talk of it being a kind of where where two URLs are matched and everything else, tiebreaker scenarios. That's what I'm looking for. In those kind of tiebreaker scenarios, when two URLs are kind of matched in a lot of other areas, then Google might use page experience as a kind of final decider. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's the most interesting in kind of improving user experience on the internet, because ultimately what the kind of metrics that they've implemented, are good, are kind of useful. If you're a user, you like that they're kind of acknowledging when there's bad user experience, like the kind of layout shift, which can be really annoying if you're a user. And similarly with kind of largest contentful paint, when it kind of loads, when it doesn't appear on your screen, or nothing loads in your screen that fast, like those kind of things are all kind of annoying problems to have when you're kind of searching the web. So having these metrics gives marketers a way of understanding where they stand in those kind of metrics. So I think that one has been a kind of good update to begin to add to the ranking factors.
The layout shift one is a big one for me, because as just a consumer browsing, whenever I land on a site or page, that shift, it really irritates me. And I find that a lot of news-based sites, news outlets, have this as a big issue for them. And to them, it's all about the ad, right? So they try to maximize on their display, which really, really impacts the entire site or pages, which is... So I'm definitely glad that Google has that. Give marketers something to think about. For people who are interested in getting into SEO, how would you suggest they become an SEO these days?
I think the main thing is just to have a platform that you can try things out. And then once you kind of get a base understanding of it and you have an opportunity to try what you're doing, is I think working for agencies can really expand your knowledge quite rapidly. So then I would suggest working, once you have learned the basics on a platform of sorts, then work for an agency, because you work with 1,000 different types of website, with 1,000 different CMS systems, and clients have different understanding of SEO. So the way you work with each of them, it changes quite significantly. So I think those two steps put you in a really good kind of footing. And I think it's just like one of these areas that you have to maintain your knowledge all the time as well, like reading blogs, or reading kind of updates, Google developer, their kind of developer website is always really useful. So I think kind of maintaining your knowledge is the kind of third step after that, which can be hard.
Yeah, I agree. It's continuous learning, isn't it? Sometimes even relearning and unlearning old stuff, because it becomes out of date. Will, where can people find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my website, pluswill.online. And you can find me on Twitter, William K2, I think.
William K2, okay. I will definitely have those 3 links in the description, so people can get in contact with you.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Will. Thanks for your time today, and you have a great day, and I hope you feel better compared to last week.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it and appreciate your time. And yeah, be good to catch up soon.